All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. I want to give double honors to my apostles and elders, great millstone, who teach very well. Want up this truth from and citation out there to the hopeful elect who continue to push this word in all truth, faith, and sincerity. And also, Shalom to all the men, women, and children who sincerely believe upon the words of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And today, man, just basically getting on the destruction, because that is an important part of prophecy. You know, in order for us to enter into the kingdom of heaven, a lot of calamities must come to pass. And one of those major calamities that's going to put the stamp on basically this rulership being over with is the missiles hen, man. You know? Because soon as the missiles land, then the kingdom of heaven will be on the roll, for the lack of better words, man. Matter of fact, you want to get something to bag that up. This is the book of Revelations. Please bear me, Akim. Because at the end of the day, Yahweh Shai had two deaths, man. That first death, which was by the flood, which ended up ending the rulership during the time of Noah, you know, the kings and the rulers that was ruling at that time. And this time is going to be with fire, you know, which will end this current rulership and will be the beginning of the kingdom of heaven. And that's one thing that we're desiring, man. That's why we love to hear missile talk. Those things with Iran and Israel, those things that's going down, it excites us. Why? Because that's another step and another foot closer to prophecy. Let's get this, though. This is the book of Revelations. Yep. This is the book of Revelations 20. This is the book of Revelations 20. And I'm going to start at verse 14. It says, "And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death." Now, right there, people want you to think that this is actually talking about a physical place that's underneath the earth with the magma and the core of earth. And that's where your soul going to be. Number one, your soul doesn't have nerve systems. So you're not going to be able to feel the fire, you know. It's this body that's actually your hell. But it says, "In death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death." Now, we're going to revisit this, but we're going to see why Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai compared the missiles hitting this place, raining down on this place, and ultimately melting and dissolving these different things away. How it's going to end up being a lake of fire, man. And even when some get too hot, you know, people been in the summer, especially down here down south, there's a thing called heat waves, you know. So it's going to be a heavy heat wave over the soils of Babylon when Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai send those missiles. Let's get some real quick. This is the book of Psalms. Salakia. Psalms 58. Yep, this is the book of Psalms 58, and I'm going to start at verse 6. It says, "Break their teeth, O power, in their mouth." Now, one thing about an animal, their teeth is their defense and offense, man. And Esau showing his teeth is him showing his weaponry. But the Lord have put this guy in a quagmire. The Lord have actually made this guy to create a weapon that's ultimately going to destroy himself. You know, read this again. "Break their teeth, O power, in their mouth. Break out the great teeth of the young lions, O Lord. Let them melt away as waters which run continually." Now, how would the teeth of a lion, you know, or even a person be melt away as waters which run continually? It's going to tell you. "When he bendeth his bow to shoot his arrows, let him be cut in pieces. Now, those arrows, that is a military term for what? Missiles, man. Because at the end of the day, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahawashi have set up here in the latter days ICBM missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, man. And it's the same dynamic as a bow and arrow. You know, you put your aim on the target, you bend the bow back, and then you shoot it. But once this bow gets shot, it's gonna cut this place in pieces, man. Break America down, each in every way. Because yeah, the Lord is breaking this down spiritually, whether it be the economy, the morale, the support system, the agriculture, the infrastructure, all these things is broken down, but it's physically going to happen when those missiles get shot off. Continuing on, it says, as a snail which melteth, and one thing about a snail, when a snail melt, what do you add? Salt, you know? And we already know that Jake is the salt of the earth, you know? But basically saying, like, through this truth, through this understanding, through this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and us returning back into our power, is actually speeding up the destruction, you know? But let's read this again. As a snail which melteth, let every one of them pass away. So you're going to die. It says, like an untimely birth of a woman, that they may not see the sun. Yes, because you're not going to be able to achieve that new world order. You want to birth that baby of wickedness, birth that baby of having everybody see hip so you can be like God. You want to birth that baby of you having immortality, but Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahawashi will not let you see the sun. He will not let you achieve your new world order, man. You know? And why? Because of the wickedness that you push forth. Let's get something else. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon 16, and we're going to jump down. Let's start at verse 15. It says, but it is not possible to escape thine hand, showing you that the missiles is ultimately going to be the end game, and you cannot escape the hand of prophecy, Esau. You know, let's continue on. For the ungodly that denied to know thee were scourged by the strength of thine arm, with strange rains, hails, and showers. now, rain, hails, and showers, it leads into a lake of fire, man. You know, that's what these rains, hails, and the showers going to lead to. Because once you go back into the time of Sodom and Gomorrah, where the Lord rained down fire and brimstone, he's going to do the same thing again. You know, it says, in the showers were they persecuted, that they could not avoid, and through fire were they consumed. So why is rain, hails, and the showers, and then in a couple, sentences later, it says, through fire were they consumed. Why? Because ultimately the lake of fire is going to be caused by the intercontinental ballistic missiles. But who was it for? For the ungodly that denied to know thee. The ones who refused to bow down. You know, you don't want to claim that you're an Israelite. You want to be a Mexican. You don't want to be a Levite. Nigga want to be a Haitian, man. You don't want to be a king. You want to serve your master. So ultimately, the consequences behind that will be what? Destruction. And it's well deserved, man, because Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahawashi have stretched out his horn. But guess what? None of these niggas out here regarding it, bro. You feel me? And why? Because they're too wrapped up in the world. And ultimately, they're wrapped up in themselves, man. But you're going to be wrapped up in the missile for what? For not bowing down and worshiping the true powers of heavens and earth. Let's get this in Ezekiel 22, and I'm going to start at verse 17. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, the house of Israel is become dross. All they are brass and tin and iron and lead in the midst of the furnace. They are even the dross of silver. So basically, they are defiled metals, man. You know? Continuing on, though, it says, therefore, thus saith the Lord power, because ye are all become dross. Behold, therefore will I gather you in the midst of Jerusalem. And the best thing to do, once you have the metals, whether it be brass, tin, iron, silver, or gold. If it have that dross on there, you have to burn it off. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's the same thing the Lord is going to do to cleanse the planet Earth. Let's get some real quick, and we're going to jump back. This is the book of Isaiah. Isaiah 24, and I'm going to start at verse 19. Matter of fact, yep. It says, the earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. Now, how is the earth will be clean dissolved? It will be clean dissolved by the missiles. You know, that's one of the best cleaning agents, you know? So, you know, these people, they didn't listen when the water hit them, and they traumatized when the rain come. So imagine what's going to happen when that fire hit them, man. Let's go ahead and continue on. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a college. And the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it. The dross, therefore, shall be heavy upon it. It shall fall and not rise again. So through that fire and brimstone and destruction that Yahweh Shema Shai is going to bring, is ultimately going to knock off all the dross. So going back into Ezekiel 22, and I'm going to start at verse 19 again. Therefore saith the Lord power, because ye are all become dross, behold, therefore will I gather you in the midst of Jerusalem. Now, even though we're not in that land physically, today, Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. It says, as they gather silver and brass and iron and lead and tin into the midst of the furnace to blow fire upon it, to melt it, so will I gather you in mine anger and in my fury, and I will leave you there and melt you. So Yahweh by Shema Shai ultimately have set, 2/3 of our people up for the get-go. You came over America thinking you're going to get a better life, but the Lord actually brought you over here for your destruction. It says, yeah, I will gather you and blow upon you in the fire of my wrath. So he's going to turn the heat up, and ye shall be melted in the midst. As silver is melted in the midst of the furnace, so ye shall be melted in the midst thereof, and ye shall know that I am the Lord, Yahweh by Shema Shai, have poured out my fury upon you. And that word poured is there too, showing you it's going to be a liquid-based destruction. And that liquid base is ultimately going to be, not liquid-based destruction, but it's going to ultimately make it liquid, by dissolving and burning up all the filth here. All that melting, that iron that's in the steel beams, all that concrete, and even the humans. They're going to melt like a damn candle wax here in these latter days. And this is one of the major reasons to fear Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. So let's go ahead and go back into their Psalms. Going back to Psalms 58. And I'm going to jump down to verse verse 7 again. It says, let them melt away as waters which run continually. When he buildeth his bow and shoot his arrows, let them be cut in pieces. And ultimately, again, that's how Yahweh Ba'ashim Shai is going to make this place undissolved. It tells you that even in 2 Peter, the 3rd chapter. All these things shall be dissolved. Well, all the person you ought to be. Going back to Revelation 20 and verse 14. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Now we have the understanding upon that. That second death will come by the way of the missiles, like the first death came by the way of the rain. So yeah, I pray the video was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakwadash. I want to give double honors to my apostle, Elders Great Millstone, and Shalom.